lunch and learn. How come you're not seeing my? Oh, maybe it just does that with PowerPoint. Huh? All right, so this is on levels, and I actually learned a few things on this. So the slides are meant to be something that you can go back to. Not necessarily. I'm not necessarily going to talk off of the slides because I think that's a waste of time. You could just read that. So you'll see on the sides I put some links to some good instructions or data online. And you can use those to kind of check some out. This one here is going to talk about what the different things mean. Most of you already know if it's bold, it means it has text or has elements on it, right? If it's white, it means it's off. If it's blue, it means it's on. We're going to get into that in a little bit. I think it's on another slide. But anyway, we're talking about the level display box, and we'll talk about the level manager as well. And so, let me bring up my other deal here. Okay, so the level display box has some different areas you guys may have seen. If you're on follow active view or not follow active view, so if it's on follow active view, I think these are gonna see how these disappear. Should I be? Oh yeah. Thanks, who's ever doing that?
You're welcome.
Is it you? No. So I usually do not use follow active view. That means if you change something, it changes in every view. Or I mean, it changes only in the view that you're in. Right? Whereas if this is turned off, follow active view is turned off, then it's going to change in every view that you have open.
Every view that you just tied, because you got to turn it on the top.
Every view that you...
Because you don't have to change it at all.
Yes, that is true. What Adam said is true. Every view that you decide. So if you open MicroStation and you turn levels on and off, and it only happened in one view, and you're like, why did that only happen in one view? That's why. Because this should be turned off, not on. All right. These other things, merge names and link tree selection. So merge names, if you have levels, again, some of this stuff right here. Actually, I think the next slide.
Let's move it down on this.
Click the mouse. Won't they do?
Yeah, I think clicking the mouse will change it. Really? Merge names was on here somewhere because I never knew what that did before. I think it's going to be on the next slide, but so apply to open views, apply to selected views. You guys know what that does, right? If you apply to all open views, it'll change the settings to be the same as the one you're in for all the views you have open. So sometimes you'll get to where you'll have levels that are grayed out. And that means that it's on in the level that you're in. It's on in your active view, but in other views, it's probably turned off somehow. And if you want to apply that and get them all the same, then you just hit apply to all open views and it would change them so they'd all be the same.
Yeah, a lot of times that will happen if you have an active view on and hover over an element and right click and say level off, it'll only turn off in that view, regardless if that follow active views is set or not.
And a lot of times also, if you apply a save view to a particular view, it'll do that too. Because the save view is only going to remember the settings that you had on when you save the view. So that's a couple of times when that will happen, yes. And then level display setting option. So you guys understand the difference between view display, global freeze? View display is what you're able to see in your view. So you can turn them on and off, and they go on and off, right? Global display means that it doesn't matter what you do in your view, you can't, if it's off in global display, you can't turn it back on again in your view. And that's a good way to, I use that if I have concept stuff that you don't necessarily want to get rid of, but it's probably not the direction that you're headed. You don't want to show up in your models, you don't want to show up in your prints, you don't want to show up in your EVEs. So I turn the global display off. You can also do global freeze, which does the same type of thing. It means that the elements can be turned off and they're not going to be able to be printed. Global display and global freeze are kind of the same. Global freeze, I read the difference and I still didn't really understand it. So if you guys want to, I think there's the next slide going to have
a note on that, Linus, specifically on global display, that will not, I think the word I'm looking for is retroactively affect previously created saved views or dynamic views. So if you think you're going to turn something off in a view by turning off the global display, it won't affect drawings that are already created and have that level turned on.
Save views.
Well, your save views remembers how you had your settings.
Right. So if you had concept and you were trying to turn that level off so it didn't appear in a save view on a drawing that you already had made, it won't automatically turn it off just because you turn off the global display.
Right. A save view is a snapshot of what you did at that particular time. So if you change something, you got to go back and retake your snapshot, regardless of what you've changed in these settings. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I don't know, some of you guys don't like global display, or so let's say you know there's something there, but you're turning your display on and off, and you can't get it to do anything. If it's grayed out, examples. So green, hold on here, I gotta change to, how about this? No, that's not gonna work either. How do I get?
It might be sharing for them, but we're not going to see it up
Yeah,
there.
how do I get this to show up on there? Why is it?
Probably drag it off the screen.
Well, I guess I can do that.
Probably over the top.
Now we don't see it.
Yeah, I know, but just bear with me for a second. I don't know why it created two monitors. It's never done that for me before. Okay, so green here obviously means that is the active layer, right? And you can turn the active layer off and then it'll show up as green. The word will show up as green. That means it's your active layer. So if you create a new entity, it's going to go on that layer. All right. Level. Sorry. Blue here means it's on. White here means it's off. If you were to, let me save views. I don't think I have anything. Model, so we can create something. Put it on 16. Create a circle on 16. So now that there's something on 16, I think you can see that it's bold, right? There's also these, I don't know if you guys have used, if you know that you right click up here, you can get a whole lot more information on what's they'll tell you what the number is. Right now our names are, this is actually a name, not a number. So in AutoCAD, when we translate to AutoCAD, it's going to say 16, right? We're exploring, we have a few of our library levels that do have names. Names are more intuitive, certainly with AutoCAD. It would mean something to say it's a column row or column grid. And you will see that in ABD, they actually have pre-named levels for the building information modeling side of their program when we add in our smart features, when we learn how to use that. So, but name, our current convention is that name is actually just a number 1 through 200. But there are numbers too, and most of the time they correspond to the same thing. 3 is 3. But there are some glitches here you may have noticed before. I thought there was one in the 30s. There's some where they don't actually match up. And if you bring in reference files, sometimes they'll get out of sync too. And so when you go to search for a level in your list, sometimes you'll see, you'll get down to where it's supposed to be and it's not really there. But if you look down the list, it's probably sorting them by number order instead of name order. Or got deleted. We're going to talk about deleting levels in a little bit. What else was I trying to point out here?
You're talking about the global display?
Yeah. Also used, I use that one a lot. I don't know if you guys use it, but you can so you all know that you can like sort by used, right? So you can see all ones you have there. Another cool thing, I kind of apologize, I got busy this week, I kind of forgot about this, but you guys know how to use filters? So this button up here is for filters, and if you open you can have either a preset list of filters that's going to come from the DGN library, I believe, or you can create them kind of on the fly. If I was to want to find all the levels that had the word hatch in them, I just typed that in there, and if there was several of them, they would all be there. So if you have, let's say you have a bunch of existing equipment, if you put the word existing in your description, you could sort by all of the levels that had existing equipment and basically turn them all off or all on at the same time. If you delete this out and hit enter, it'll go back to getting everything that you have. I think if you put a 1 in here, it'll show you only the levels that are used. If you put 0, it'll show you only the levels that are not used. So 1 is generally a yes, and 0 is generally a no, in like a binary type Boolean code. So that's filters. You know the tree, of course. If you right click on the tree, you have some options. From here you can open the reference dialog box or attach new reference. Invert the selection. So basically you're selecting everything that you didn't have selected before. You can select all. You can find the properties of the design file, I guess. That's on the active file that you're in, of course. You get a few different settings down below. If you right click on one of the references that are attached, one thing you can do is turn the display on and off right here. But if you turn the display on and off right here, I believe that when it turns it back on, it's going to turn on all of your levels. It's going to turn all the levels off or turn all the levels on. Versus if you go to the reference dialog box and turn the display off there, you'll turn it off and on in the same state that you left it. So if you had half the levels off and you turn it on with the reference dialog box, half the levels will still be off. If you do it here, I believe it's going to turn all the levels back on when you turn the reference file back on.
The same goes the other way. I think if you have that turned off there and somebody else turns the reference on in the reference dialog box, all the levels will be defaulted off.
Is that true? Okay.
I think so. I could be wrong, but I think that's how that works.
I'm not sure that's how that works, but it's been a little while since I've done it that way. I'll have to check and play with it.
Yeah, I remember that I got frustrated with it and I decided to use the ref box because it gave me results that I was expecting. If you're in this area, you can also right click on stuff. You guys know that, right? You can do off by, you guys know how to use off by element? Everybody not know how to use off by?
I don't.
So if you pick off by element and you pick out an element here, it's going to turn that level off. Whatever level that was on. And that was in the this model right here.
You gotta turn off your used
Do what's that?
filter.
Oh yeah.
Time to replace these filters.
Good job, Mark.
So yeah, see that was center 2. So it only applied it to the view that I was in.
Like you could do right clicking in the view itself.
What's that?
Like you could do right clicking in the view itself.
Yeah, that's what I talked about earlier. If you right click on that element, you can select level off.
Right in the bottom section.
And it'll turn off just in that view.
Oh, so it's doing the same thing as down here then. Actually didn't know that.
Good job.
You get to select it first.
Okay.
And then you could take that the settings on that view and propagate everything else, I do that all that.
And you can do off except element. So you can do your invert on and off here. So if you have everything on that you want to see on and everything else you're going to delete, you invert it, delete it all, and invert it back. You can create a display set from that level, I believe. Of course, then you want to clear your display set. You can go right to level manager. You can save your, if you create a filter, and you want to save it, you can do that here. Let's just do that for a second. I'm not sure where that goes then. So then if we go up to filters, so it goes down here in this, I wonder how you get rid of it. Once you create it, I don't know how you delete it out of there. I'll have to find out. Okay, so let's move back to our slide here. Change level. So, I think that this is I think change level is actually a connect tool that we have now. Let's open that real quick. And we have a similar tool that Corey wrote with a VBA that moves stuff from one level to another. But change level is now built into the must be waiting for me somewhere here. I've got to go to get here. Oh, no, not. Yeah, that's the best one. Okay, good. See why it's opening so slow. I wonder if it's because of the GoToMeeting thing. Oh, it does open a lot faster than that. Go back to it. Target tree. Yes, you know what that is. List filter. So level names of filters. Dialog display. Yeah, that was a discussion on level display and level freeze. What they do. So we're gonna move on to the next slide here. How'd we get it to move?
With the arrow keys.
Didn't do it. What's going on here? So sometimes when you go to delete a level or something, or you want to know what's on a level, you can use this key in level usage, and then you type in the level name. You guys all know about that one? Do you know what a key in is? Nope. You don't know what a key in is? You never use a key in? Nope. Key-ins are how we used to do everything. So if you go to MicroStation, this down here is the key-in box. Well, I believe you get to it in V8i through this key right here, key-in. Turns that. Oh, should actually have turned it off, but it didn't. You can also use this to find key-ins. So if you want to do line or well, unfortunately, you
How you
can't
use it for changing the feature solid into a regular solid.
move element.
Convert rec.
No, but
Oh yeah, convert
that
rep.
X1 equals 0 and done there.
Or X, Y equals 0.
Oh,
0,
yeah.
comma 0, or 0.
So that's where you do a key in, but if you use this key in and you type in the level name, it's going to give you this box. It's going to tell you what's on that level or what's being used by that level. Sometimes you'll have a level that you can't delete for some reason. You want to, and it won't let you. It says it's in use. It'll tell you to use this. It'll actually tell you to use this command right here. And then that shows up in your message box. You guys know where the message box is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Down at the very bottom of the screen. Down here, this is the message box. Telling you what's going on kind of behind the scenes in MicroStation. So this was the level usage for level 1. The target tree, we kind of went through all the right clicks already on this stuff. Change level. So then there's some, so everything used to be operated by key-ins. All of your icons that you select on now, you could open them all with key-ins before. So the key-ins are usually always still there. So if you find and they can be used for doing like batch routines or creating your own sequences of commands that you want to use. Maybe we'll do some more on that later, but here's some key-ins that are kind of handy for different things that are listed there, and you can check out what those do. Level dial, so merge names, we're kind of getting back to this. When multiple targets are selected, only unique level names are displayed. So if you have let's have 4 reference files, and they all have level 10 on them, right? When you select those 4 files, I think it's only going to show 1 10, and you'll be able to change it just by clicking 10 on and off. You won't have to click 4 different levels to turn 10 on and off. They'll all be the same. Linked tree selection. So this links the level manager and the level display dialog. So if you go to the level manager and you turn off the display, it'll actually do it in the level properties too. If you don't have those linked, it's not going to do that. So these two you pretty much want to leave on. I don't really see a reason why you wouldn't have those on. And follow active view we talked about. Auto arrange icons in the toolbar wrap when the dialog is resized. So that's just how your toolbar displays. Level filters, we talked about that. So this is a filter that shows everything that has the word exist in it. Even if the word is existing, because that portion of the word is there, it's going to show that one up. We talked about using filters as a way to pare down our models. So our models are getting big, our projects are getting big. When it comes time to do a general arrangement drawing, it's almost impossible to do because of all the detail in the models. But there's very little information in a model that really needs to be on a general arrangement. So if we used a prefix, a GA or general arrangement or something in the level of items that need to be on, we could use that filter when it came time to create a general arrangement. So that might be, I think that's probably where we need to start heading with the creation of general arrangements for large jobs, because it's really, we don't need every nut and bolt on that drawing. So maybe we just need to start making a point to putting something in the level description that we can key on, and I think GA is just as good as anything. So if it's information that you think needs to be on the GA, like center lines, work points, pulleys, maybe even something like that for a belt conveyor, then we probably want to tag it with GA.
Well, it's even stuff you could use for background information too on layouts. So if you're detailing a conveyor and you just want to see the outline of stuff, not everything, all the detail, you could use it there too.
Right, here was another good instructional video on how to use level filters if you haven't used them or want to find out more about them. Attaching a reference. So this is new in Connect Edition. When you attach a reference, you can actually assign that reference to a level now. And that way, when you turn that level off, that reference would turn off, which could be handy as well. Changing level. This is also a CE thing that I was trying to show you. I wonder if it ever came up. So if we go to our level display, and you see I have elements on 23, doesn't look like I have anything on 25, so if I click on that works great, doesn't it? Set active, jump to active level. Oh wait, that's because I have global display. Sorry. My fault. Let's go back to the slide. Maybe it tells me how to do it. Change level. Oh, you know what? I think it was in the I think it's this icon right here, actually. So change level. You can display that, you can turn the display off. You can display only what's on that level. Why isn't it turning everything
You go back to
on?
global display and turn it on global display, then go back.
Doesn't turn it on.
You gotta go back to view display.
Is there a way to turn off the markers
Yeah.
permanently?
Well, permanently, I think they keep coming back on. I haven't figured that out yet. So where did that, oh, I know, because it was in that reference file, that's why. So let's go back to the slide. Wrong slide. So when you use the display only, you turn on display of the selected level only. So it's always with a element selection after that when you use that. And then for lock, do you ever use the lock function of a level? So if you lock a level, you can still see what's on it, but you can't select it. So it's a good way to stretch things without stretching the stuff you don't want to stretch, is you would lock it and then you'd be able to move or stretch something to an object, but you can't affect that object. You can't mess that one up. So I really apologize I didn't go through and brush up on this. I did a couple of weeks ago, and then set target, set active. I don't use them. I don't remember what that does exactly. Set the target level for the display of the selected levels. So I think that you're going to select a bunch of levels, and you pick a target, and it's going to do whatever those are doing. Or those are going to do whatever that one does, I guess is the better way to say that. Level manager, this is what I really wanted to get into here, was, so you guys understand libraries? We have a Kodiak library that forces certain things. Usually those first 10 or so levels are all where we put our hatch and our dimensions, everything. You guys you can't change them. It's locked in that way because it's in our library. Okay, our library has those 10 levels, and the library is locked so that you can't change those 10 levels. So what generally happens is, and this everybody runs across this at one point or another. You'll create a new user for some reason. Maybe your profile gets corrupted or whatever. If you're in a file that has, if you're in a file that has all of the levels in it, it's going to create a new mharlan.dgnlib file. All right, it's going to create your own personal DGNlib file, and that'll have all those levels in it. And so when it attaches that file to your file, it's going to say these are all library levels, so it's going to wipe out everything in that file. So I'm sure you've all seen where your descriptions have all gone away in a model for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's because your DGN file wiped them out. So your DGNlib file, your personal library, shouldn't have any levels in it. It it should have no levels in it, so that our seed file for the drawings is what populates it. Now, your personal DGN-lib file, most people probably don't use it, but you can use it to create new tools. If there's a tool that you have, a sequence that you always want to make, if there's a dimension style, that combination that you use, now we've got quite a few of them in our library already, and we really should be using all the fonts at least that we use. And there are good reasons to use customer dimension styles, mostly because they make us. But sometimes there just might not be a combination doing exactly what you want to do in our styles, and you want to take our style, copy it to something else, and tweak a couple settings, right? Maybe you don't like to go in and change it to tolerance on, tolerance off, whatever. Maybe you want to use tolerance one. You want to make your own setup. So you can copy that into your DGN library, tweak your settings, and then it's always going to show up in that list along with all the other library ones. It's just coming from your own library. So no one else has access to it, really. If they get that file, they will, because once you place a dimension in that file with that setting, it's going to be in that file. But level libraries or DGN libraries, personal DGN libraries, are a good way for you to make customized tools, or customized dimension settings, text settings, whatnot. But they will overwrite, the levels in there will overwrite all your levels. So you don't want to have any levels in there. If you right click in this top line, I think you all know that you can change what's displayed and what's not displayed, right? Pretty much that's the same with any menu in MicroStation. If you right click on that top bar right here, you can turn these on and off. So you don't want them to take up the space. Name, most of the time you don't, or number, most of the time you don't need. Library, most of the time you don't need. Even file, you don't really need. Logical. So you can pare these down to be what you need. You can also save your arrangement. So if you have, maybe you do use some tools for modeling, you don't use other tools for doing details, you want to see a simpler list, you can save those as different layouts over here. Symbology we're going to talk about. Again, these, you have the same thing here. It merges level names and links tree selection. I think if you turn these off, it turns it off in both places, here and in the display dialog box. Oh yeah, so level symbology. So that was libraries, level symbology. So up under symbology, you have by level and you have overrides. So by level means it's kind of the AutoCAD way of doing things, where you place things on a layer and it takes on the attributes of that layer. With MicroStation, we have the ability to assign attributes to an element. We're not dependent on the layer, but sometimes you'll have customers that require you to do it by layer, and so we still can. So when we set it up to by level, the by level properties are these right here. If you place an element so if you find my cursor. Right now, if I place an element, it's going to use these element properties, right? But I can change these properties to by level if I want to, and then it'll change it to whatever this level is. Looks like because I have a filter on. So let's say I want to change it to level 10. It's going to take on the properties, the bi-level properties of that level when I place it. And if I were to go into the level manager and change the bi-level properties to blue, it would turn to blue on your display. And sometimes you're going to see that with AutoCAD when you bring something in, the color will stay white maybe when you try to change the color to green. It's because it's obeying its bi-level properties and staying whatever it was on the level that it was created as. So then overrides is the other way of doing things. And overrides get used a lot for creating layout drawings. So when we want to have background information, quite often we'll just take that whole background model and we'll make it weight 0 gray, right? But that doesn't really do anything for us until we what the heck? Where is that at? Until we actually change the view to accept level overrides. So, and I don't really have any here, but the overrides won't apply. Actually, I do in that other file though. I can't seem to get back and forth between my. So right now you see that I have some overrides on this background steel. It's all this orange light color. If I turn my overrides off, you're going to see exactly how it is in their model. So level overrides are a pretty handy little deal when you're creating drawings, because when you run your EVEs or dynamic views, they obey. Is that true for dynamic views? It is, right?
Yeah.
They obey the level overrides. Now, if you change your level overrides, particularly with dynamic views, I've learned that it doesn't necessarily change it until you reload the file. It doesn't necessarily apply it to the saved view until you reload the file. So sometimes you have to reopen it actually to get the level override change to accept. That's a true statement, right, Brian?
Yep.
Filters work the same here. Importing levels. So once in a while, you're going to find that you, so let's say a level got deleted, or let's even say that, so you were in that instance where you had your personal DGN library attached. It wiped out all your descriptions from your model that you had, right? But you can still get to an older version of the model because we have backups of it. You could use that model and import those levels, and even though you still have the same level names, it would fill in the descriptions from the old version of it. So that's a good way to get your descriptions back when you lose them without having to type them all back in again. So you import, I think I have an actual screen on that. The file tree works the same way, and properties. We're going to talk about deleting levels. So importing levels, you click import levels, and you're going to get this dialog box. You'll see all the you'll pick a file actually, and then you'll get this dialog box. You pick all the levels that you want to import, and you hit OK. So you don't have to import all of them. You can pick and choose which ones you want to import. The file tree, if you right-click on the active file, you're going to get some of the similar, it's about the same as the level display dialog that we already talked about. Overriding the DGN library attributes. So we have already set up that, and this is if you ever run into a problem with being able to override something, it's because there's something wrong with this configuration variable. This configuration variable should allow you to override pretty much anything that comes in from a reference file. If you can't, then it's because it's not on this list somehow. So on the properties box, this is from CE, I believe. You can remap the elements. Is that from CE? Oh, so you can remap. Okay, so so that will read only. But it does work in V8i. If I go to connect and I go to level manager, and I go to the active file, it's the only thing that's going to let me do anything in. Inlet air header, and I do remap. Of course, it puts my dialog in a different window. So my source is 26. I can send it to 25. And it'll send all the, you're going to see that it sends the elements there. They jump from 26 to 25. It did not change the description, which would be nice if it would do that, right? We have a similar tool that we used to have that would actually move a whole block of, so if you had 10 levels that you want to move, we have a tool that actually moves those 10 levels to another 10 levels, but they all have to be continuous. Does that tool actually, well, it works currently in V8i. I'm not sure that it's going to work in. So if you go delete a level, so this is telling me level 20 is in use before it can be deleted. The elements must be moved to a different one, and it'll let you move them right here. We're going to talk about deleting levels in a little bit because you can actually delete it. There is a keying command that lets you delete everything on a level too, but you want to be real careful with that one. So these are the level properties. So here you can actually rename it, change the description. You do everything that you would do in the level manager. You can change all the attributes of it, right? We don't really use custom line styles. I think we try to stay away from doing custom stuff because then you have to give them, if we translate to AutoCAD, you have to give them like the line style code. And we just try to stay with stuff that's going to be fairly common across. Level properties, this is a good one. Usage, it'll tell you exactly what components are on a level and how many. So if everybody has a problem sometimes where they find a level that you turn it on, but you don't see anything, right? These ghost elements. This could maybe help you determine what that is, but we're going to talk about how to deal with that in a second. So you can get rid of levels, or get rid of elements on levels several different ways. You can do a move, which we talked about. There's a key in for that as well. You can do a purge, which takes everything on a level and moves it to the default level. Actually, it doesn't move it to the default level. It moves it to moves all elements to the default level and deletes level. But it looks like there is a way too that you can actually put in your level that you want to send it to, which would not necessarily be default, and then your level that you're sending it from, your source level. But then it deletes the level. So it moves everything and then gets rid of the level. Level element delete. This deletes all the elements on a level. So if you have elements that won't display for some reason, and you just want to get rid of them, you want to be a little careful, because sometimes when you do shared cells or whatnot, it puts a header or something on a level. And if you delete that level, it'll actually delete the shared cell it's on a different level. So the geometry got moved over, but the bit of information that said this stuff's all the group will sometimes stay. And if you delete that, all the geometry will get deleted too. But there are times when there's just something on a level and you can't find it, and you don't know what it is. This command will let you get rid of it. So you know how to use a fence void, right? So the fence tool tells you what it's doing with the type of fence and the color. If it's a solid fence, I think it's going to be inside. If it's a dash fence, it's going to be overlap or clip. And if it's green, it's going to be inside. If it's red, it's going to be outside. I think there's a color code there when you're placing a fence, if you pay attention. I think that was it, though. Was that the last slide? Trying to remember what this slide up here, what this is up here for. Oh yeah, selection. So you guys all know that you can select levels or select elements on a level, and then you can pare that down. So if you don't, if you select everything, you say I don't want center lines, you can come up to this filter, this drop-down filter, and you go to the line type, and you turn off center line. It would deselect everything that was center lines, right? Or it would deselect everything that was blue if you use this filter, right? Well, just so you know, if you right-click on here, there's other filters here that don't necessarily show up. You can select or deselect things by text style, dimension style, and transparency as well. So if I've done this, come across something where you don't know why it's not EVEing or rendering correctly. I'm like, oh crap, I had the transparency on, right? What else did I have transparency on for? You can select everything with transparency. I guess it'd probably be of a certain level though, so it might be hard to decipher exactly which ones have which transparency level. But
Yeah.
But there are other selections here that you can use that don't show up unless you right click in this area. Most of this information is what it generated this from. So levels are a good way for us to separate our information. We try to break things down by level so that the model is organized for both the designer and the detailer, right? The detailers really use levels to break things apart. We have some other tools there that we'll talk about, display sets, name groups, those types of things can also be used to break things up even when they're on the same level. But levels are a good tool. We want to keep track of levels by trying to leave our tracks so we're filling in we're using these level descriptions so we know what's on a level for the people that come behind us. Like here, this guy didn't fill in 2 of them, so nobody else has any idea what's on those levels. Jerk. So I'm going to blame Rachel on that one. She touched that model at one point. So I guess that's it. That's what I had on levels. A few things there that I wish I had actually gone through Monday or Tuesday so I could have done a better job at showing you, because there was a few things that I didn't know. I hope you guys maybe learned something that you didn't know.
One thing with the element selection, if you use the select by color and you have multiple levels on using the same color, even if that level is turned off in your display,
Yes.
you will change it. You will modify it to whatever you're trying to do.
And that's how all those work, I think. If you just select purely by element type,
Yeah.
that's why it's always good maybe to start with a selection set and then pare it down from there, because these selections up here are selecting every element like that in the model, whether it's on or not, whether the display is on or not.
And if you have it on, you can see what's highlighted as it goes through. As
Right.
you start deselecting.
But if you start by selecting everything that's on first, it's only going to select what you selected, and then from there you can get rid of things that you don't want. So, that's all I got.
One other thing I don't think you covered is you can actually export your levels to CSV, which can be handy if you're trying to manage detailing a bunch of stuff between a bunch of different people.
Sure. So you could
It's in your
export it
level
to
manager.
CSV, which is essentially an Excel file, and you could then use that list to assign different levels to different people. Is that what you're saying, Grant?
Yeah, I've just done that so I could actually have something that was handy to print, where I could either type in or have something that was printed in front of me rather than having it stuck in a weird display on the computer, and taking screenshots kind of sucks. But that's in the level manager under file.
Yeah, that would be.
Or if you're detailing something that's really big and you want to track it for yourself and just have a way to highlight things, I've just been able to utilize that quite a bit.
File export.
You can also import levels the same way, which is handy if you don't want to type your descriptions in MicroStation for some reason. You can actually import the descriptions.
That's true. You can type it into an Excel file and bring it in from there. Yep.
I've done that as well.
Maybe, right. I was thinking the unit list, but that's not the same thing. All right, well, thanks. I'm sorry that it wasn't a little bit better organized. I meant to get a little bit better organized. The next, I don't know what the next one's going to be, actually.
I think the next one is what I got there that I haven't started yet, which is referencing or references.
References. And so masking, clipping, nesting. And that'll be in the second week of December.
Is it?
or no, November. Yeah, I skipped a month. Yeah. I don't think it's the day before. Pier 6 opens on a Friday.
There will probably be more than that in that particular topic. That's just the subjects I've managed to type in so
Right.
far.
And again, if you don't make it, that's
You'll be
fine. If you want to watch it later, we are, hopefully I recorded it. Yes, I did. All right, thanks for your time.